They announced it approved a new drug to help treat the memory disease known as Alzheimer. It's called Aduhelm. It is a first such treatment for this since 2002. With more on this, could it help locals? Are there side effects? Here's North Shore neurologist and pain management specialist, Dr. Chad Domingue with the Avila Physician Network. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey Liz, missed you these last 2 weeks, but please know you've been on my mind.
Ah, nice. Very cute. You always have really great props there. So it's estimated in 2020 as many as 5.8 million people suffered from this. For those not familiar, do you slowly or quickly lose all of your ability to remember things or your loved ones when you have this particular Alzheimer's memory disease?
Yeah, Alzheimer's is terrible. I mean, for neurologists, it's one of the worst diseases to watch as someone deteriorates over time. And what happens is you build up abnormal proteins, proteins called amyloid or tau. And so the parts of the brain that are most affected, it usually affects the temporal lobes first, so the hippocampus. So what you see first is short-term memory. As these proteins aggregate or develop, the neurons die. And as the proteins develop more, it affects the entire brain. And if you ever seen a loved one die with Alzheimer's, they lose their ability to care for themselves and talk. And then over time, they just can't take care of themselves. And unfortunately, they eventually die. It's a very difficult disease to watch.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking. And, you know, a lot of people are dealing with this and watching their loved ones slowly lose the ability to even know who their children are or loved ones. It's just heartbreaking. Now, this newly approved drug reportedly targets the pathway that causes a loss of memory condition. Explain the significance of this, but also the concerns that come with this and why.
So this is the first FDA-approved drug for Alzheimer's in 20 years. The two drugs that we have currently work on a chemical called acetylcholine that helps memory. That would be Exelon and Aricept, and another drug called Namenda that blocks glutamate, which is a toxic effect. Those drugs don't slow the progression. This is the first drug that we have that is shown in clinical studies to slow the aggregation or buildup of these proteins. This is a once a month infusion. It's an hour infusion, and it is an antibody against these proteins. So you're fighting these proteins and keeping them from building up on the cell bodies and the neurons. Here's the controversy. The clinical studies, there's two of them. There was 1,000 patients enrolled in these studies. Only 300 went out to 18 months. So you're not talking about 3 or 4 year data. You're only talking about 18 months. One of the studies didn't meet its clinical significance. The other study showed decreased production of these proteins, but didn't show that it changed the clinical outcomes. And I understand why the FDA would approve something because Alzheimer's is so terrible, but there's a downside. 40% of the patients that got this drug developed swelling or edema or lesions in their brain related to blood products. They don't know what this means. So we don't know if down the road these abnormalities on the MRI are going to take away some of the good days that these patients have left. The neurologists on the FDA panel told the FDA not to approve this. And the FDA approved it, and 11 neurologists resigned because of the controversy with this.
Wow.
Here's where it gets worse. $56,000 a year is the cost of this. And now that the FDA approved it, this is going to be covered by Medicare. So this is something that taxpayers have to think about.
So it is a newly approved drug to treat Alzheimer's, but also there's a lot of concern about this with some neurologists opposing the FDA panel approving this. So what do people need to know if they're inquiring about this when they talk to their doctors?
This is not the miracle drug. You know, does it have promising? Is it exciting as a neurologist, you know, seeing many of my patients with Alzheimer's pass away and seeing how devastating? Yeah, it's exciting. But I just want to caution patients that you really need to understand. I mean, I dove through this study at a high level before this interview. There's a lot of question marks. And you know, again, I don't want to get into the political aspect of the FDA approving this. I'm a physician. You know, these patients need to sit down with a neurologist, need to understand the side effects, understand if this is something they want to do, but do not just jump into this. You really need to think about it.
Okay, some interesting perspective there on this new FDA approved drug. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, doctor.
Absolutely, Liz. Good to see you.